have a GPS transmitter on them so that field biologists can be able to track and see how they're doing and who's where and who's pairing up with who. And
How
What's the
long does
lifespan?
that battery last?
ooh, that I don't know offhand. I mean, it lasts quite a while, but you know, like anything, I mean, it has a life expectancy, and so you know, if they're not getting readings from one, then the field biologist will go out there to be able to recapture, you know, put a new one.
Is that a real egg?
Oh, so this is what we call a dummy egg. And so it is molded from a real condor egg, and then this is actually made of wood, and it's painted. And so in the beginning of the program, when the numbers were so low, we would do what we call double clutching to be able to get as many eggs during a season, because typically condors they mate for life. Both males and females will help share taking care of the incubation and the chick raising, and they only have one egg per season. And depending on how long their season is, the chick will stay with them for, well, the egg incubation is 56 to 60 days. And then after that, the chick will be with the parents, typically for like 18 months or so. And so depending on if they had an early or late season, they could have one egg every year, but more typically we'll see one egg about every other year.
How do the chicks get trained? Like, does the mom trains the chick, or
the mom and dad?
Okay.
Yeah, so they will both show the little one, you know, gradually how to forage for.
And do they get released into the wild very often, or like how long does it take to?
Every year we have condors that are released back out into the wild.
Okay. And do they have any problems when they're in the wild, because they're in a captive breeding setup, right? So when they are released into the wild, do they freely ready to go in the wild, or how do they get do they get any problems when they go in the wild?
We haven't seen very much because of how our program is set up. We have, right now we're doing a lot of parent raising, so they're being raised by condors, and then once they're big enough to fledge, which is once they're big enough to be able to fly on their own, then they're taken back in a socialization pen, so it's like a huge enclosure where they have an adult mentor bird, and then they're with other birds from that year in their cohort. And so that mentor bird, you know, kind of shows them the ropes and shows them that social structure of being a condor, you know, how there's a hierarchy. So, you know, that mentor will kind of push the birds around a little bit so that they know how to behave around older birds and that, because once they're released, they need to know how to be able to behave. And so because they're California condors are real social eaters, and so you'll notice they'll displace each other, and you know, younger ones will kind of get pushed off, but then once the older ones are done eating, you know, then it's their time to be able to eat, because a lot of times they'll be feasting on these huge carcasses.
Right.
And so, so for double clutching, where we'll try to get 2 eggs during a season, after the female will lay the first egg, we'll pull that egg and take it to incubation. All the eggs are incubated, but we'll just take the egg and leave them with nothing, which that can happen sometimes out in the wild, you know, if the egg is predated. And if something like that happens, it's usually about a month or so, the female can be able to recycle, and she'll lay another egg. And that egg we'll pull, except for we'll put one of our warmed up dummy eggs in its place. And it has, you know, about the weight of a real condor egg, and so then the female will come back into her nest box, and then, oh, my egg has moved to a little bit different spot. Oh, and then sit right back on it. And so then during the incubation period, we do artificial incubation, so we can really closely monitor the eggs and make sure that for optimal success, you know, because sometimes we have to assist with breakouts, or there's a malposition and we can go in there, you know, and help a condor hatch that, if it was under parents, would not have hatched. And so we have that. The difference between the dummies? No, which is amazing. Yes. Yeah. And so that first egg that we pulled is now getting ready to hatch. So then that first egg, we would puppet raise. And we don't want them to imprint on people at all. So they have no visual contact with us. So we'll be behind like a cloth barrier, and we'll go in there and feed and take care of the chick with this little puppet, which is pretty cool. Definitely want to. Yes, check out how the puppet works. So we'll do that one. The second egg,
Put your hand in.
we'll pull
Put your
that
hand
baby
in.
from under the parents. You know, we'll be out distracting them so they don't know that we've ever.
Go all the way in there.
And we have like this scoop, kind of like this.
Can I try?
Ooh.
Kind of flat net.
No, you're gonna feed. You're gonna feed with that.
That has
No,
now
wait, I want
just
to try
hit.
Gautam.
So we know it's
Yeah, I recommend you don't try that.
and then we'll pull that dummy. And so then the mom or dad comes back in there and is
Hold
like,
this.
oh, this egg is looking at me. Cool. You know, and then the parents will be able to assist with hatch and then be able to raise them. So now, we've gone from 22 birds to now we have around 450, which is a huge success. So a little over half of which are flying back out into the wild, and the other half are part of our breeding program. Now that we have more numbers out there, we prefer to have all of our chicks parent raised. But, you know, sometimes either because of a medical issue that has come up, or if there's a parent or fighting in the nest box, and we have to make that difficult decision to, okay, we need to pull this chick and so we do puppet raise on occasion, but we definitely prefer parent raise, because now we can really just focus on quality and quantity. But we have chicks that are, you know, our chicks from this year are chicks. They're big. They're up in the socialization pen, and you know we have ones that are puppet raised, ones that are parent raised, and you really can't tell the difference behavior-wise between the two, which is really amazing.
Yeah, cat getting up. Take his cat. You just have to. That's what I'm gonna ask.
One's flying around. Those ones are our local turkey poachers. But we have 5 different release sites.
Denoj, try that out. No, look, let it pop out. Try it out.
Let it
out.
Pinnacles, and
I will. She's not done speaking yet.
Listen.
the north of LA area, Ventana. We have Baja, a release site over in Baja, California, and then another one over close to the Grand Canyon, kind of the Arizona and Utah border over there.
Look what I did to my dad's kid.
Our site in particular, so for the safari park, this last year, or this year, we released 4. And so it can vary to, you know, a handful to more than a handful. But there are 4 different breeding facilities. So us, LA, another one up in Oregon, that.
How are they doing?
They're doing well, but some of the factors. So I explained their reproduction. So they have, you know, a slow replacement rate, but the mortality rate is still really high. So we're working on trying to get that back down to a nice balance. A lot of the birds that were released come back still with lead poisoning because they are real social eaters. So if there's a carcass that has been shot with lead bullets, they have tongues that really grip food and just big old chunks of food. And so they'll ingest bullets. And lead, they don't just affect condors or vultures. Lead's horrible for any living thing. So you have things like paint that lead is taken out of.
You only go try the leather puppet.
So the field biologist
How did they get
they'll go and check it out, and if it's down in derm through chelation, they could actually they could actually treat them for lead and get it out of their system, and then once the herd is strong enough,
Daddy,
so that's a really big one.
என்ன பண்றீங்க ரெக்கார்ட் பண்றீங்களா யார
It's not a big issue now, but that definitely back when it just plummeted was a big issue. But on a positive note, for the lead poisoning issue, California actually in 2019 is going to ban lead bullets, and so which is going to be a little bit of a transition for people. So there are some people that really don't like it, which is understandable in the sense that prices are going to go up, but then once it's a law, and then if people are just mass producing non-lead bullets, the price will go down. And so that's something that that we can do to help is to just when people are angry about it, just be like, hey, well, it's doing a lot of good for our environment. And local vultures.
non-lead bullets shells.
Can I try?
For shotguns, that doesn't have a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're not poisoning waterfowl anymore.
Yeah.
Or we stop poisoning water.
Yeah, so that'll be a big change coming up. That all bullets here in California, but that's it'll make a really big impact. Definitely a positive one. So we have that, but then also something else that we can do to help our local vultures as well is picking up trash. Because especially females, when they're getting ready to form an egg, they start eating a lot of bones because they need that extra calcium. And here I have some deer bones, so definitely hit them together and check them out. But you can see how it could look like little bits of plastic.
Oh, I see.
And so they'll be eating plastic and what we call but what we call microtrash. So
deer bone
so if big take-home message for today.
So it feels like plastic, yeah.
These are
So they
plastic?
actually eat plastic, yeah. No, it's not plastic, it's real bone.
Bottle caps and things. because that will be a really big help for our vultures.
What are common problems convos face?
Is
Stay here.
yeah, have a good one. Our lead poisoning and then eating things like microtraps that they think is bones.
Actually, these kids are doing a report on California condos, so that's why we're like trying to, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you mentioned about shock, because the mortality is because of shock and lead bullets usage, right? So do they go through any kind of training for like avoiding power lines and stuff?
So in all of our pens, we actually have the power lines in there that have a little bit that give them a little bit of a shock. So they'll try to land on it and they'll get a shock, you know, and they may do that. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 times, and then they associate, you know, that
Those lines,
line, with that shock. So then that way, all of our released birds have already learned that, and so for them to be able to avoid.
So you do that only for the caged birds, not the released birds, right?
For our released birds, we do that. We do it for our, all of our ones in our breeding program and our released.
But released ones will go wild, right? I mean, they go.
No, they get trained here and then they
They
get
get
released.
socialized here, mentored before they're released.
But those lines are not inside here, right? Or is it in a different?
Not inside here, 'cause
Okay.
these ones are out on exhibit. But all of these birds have been in pens.
But they won't go out, is it? I mean, they can't go out from the, you know, not from the cage when they go out.
Yeah? No, that was a replica of one though.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good day.
Yeah, thanks.